Some people have said you shouldn't be posting sensitive material. It could come back to backlash you in the future. Folks, now more than ever is the time to be talking. And if it takes you on the sidewalk, just don't be violent. This guy, Crip Mac, he's a felon. And he's caught carrying a gun. Luckily, I don't carry a gun or a knife. I was checking my makeshift bungee cord around my waistband because I tie it with a bow tie, making sure it's not poking out. I lift up my shirt to look at if I tuck the bow tie under the roundabout strap of the belt of the makeshift bungee cord. And it was poking out a little, but it's just the action of lifting up my shirt to, it looked like I was reaching for a gun, you know, for a quick draw. Because their holster's in the same position. No, but it's people when they start flapping their hands or their shirt. It reminds me of a bird. And in Street Fighter, there's a guy named Birdie. So we can imagine this figure. But back to Crip Mac. He's in jail facing 15 years because he's carrying a gun, a ghost gun. Don't even know what that is, but if you're a felon caught third time carrying one, you're going to face 15 years. And I know my face is darkened right now, but as soon as I see my shadow right there. These hints, one hint, I've got 4 hints, but here's the intro. The nonviolent, oh yeah, in Crip Mac, he said he was an influencer on the internet. The feds, anyone in the law justice department prosecuting him are going to look up every video he did where he said he's destruction. And he would say this as funny. It's like what wrestlers do on TV. They always say like these aggressive words, and it's so funny to be in public saying aggressive words. But he'd do that, and then he would always be wearing his Crip clothing because his name is Crip Mac. And so they're just going to pull together all these like devastating video clips of him interacting with junkies on the street and painting him as a monster. So I understand sensitive material, which is why I don't want to be one of them. But I have to at least talk about a few things. So I like to call one thing Dorothy. When I click my heels together inside of like a combo, it's to set up a combo. And like you usually shouldn't have extra motion in making stuff fluid, but this is what filler is good for. Filler has like a combo setup. If you click your heels together, I'm calling it Dorothy. I might show you later, but just take my word for it now. I'm naming stuff. Yesterday I named something a red herring, and I named it Dorothy. I name another thing Patchman. No, in Sonic the Hedgehog, there was a guy named Knuckles, and he was like his opposite and equal, Newtonian. So for the game Pac-Man, I would like to fancy a guy named Patchman. And it's, you don't know, the double would be equal to Knuckles to Sonic. In video games, they always make patches for things that are like less on release, because the developers always want to release stuff early ahead of time. So you'll need a lot of patches because there'll be a whole bunch of bugs in the game. So you make a patch for it. It's always the difference between a patch. It's always the difference between a patch and then the when someone makes a game that's a fan version of the game. The whole game is a patch, but you'll never justify the original. And so that's a giant stanza, and definitely worth noting between synthetic if you're defining gray area and what's natural, because in natural, the stuff that occurs, its origin does have gray area. So the cross of this is super official to point out. Secondly, what's people pointing out things are in emergent states. You can't get more emergent than a emergency box or a kit inside the wall. And it's got a walkie-talkie, a defibrillator, all this stuff. It says a kit. So you smash it open and it's just like the eye wash station. Imagine trying to operate that with your vision going out. I don't think I'd be able to. So like, yeah, this box of this medical kit had a dirty rag, soiled dust bunnies all over it. It was hardened. So if you get a hardened dust bunny, it turns into a dot. So it had all these chunks of dot that was crud hardened, and then a dirty hair on top of it. This was sitting on top of a medical kit inside of a wall that you opened, like a escape hatch. And so an escape hatch, I mean like a hidden compartment. But it was labeled medical kit. And I'm noting this is because those are polar opposites again, a dirty rag sitting on top of medical kit. So if you think of all these things inside buildings, indoors, there's a huge thing with indoor and outdoor. Notably, the outhouse was a crossover and gray area where it was trying to be fanciful, even though it wasn't. And so it's the outside indoor, the outhouse. But more things like an atrium in Latin, they've got these words for, you know, what lobby is, a foyer, a library, all these names. If you start associating health with these rooms, it's really, it paints the picture of this dirty rag on top of a medical kit. And you can apply this to each room, giving these centigrades of what health is. I was trying to do this earlier, inspired by a magazine, how like they're trying to make these, I think it's like green energy, but they're making an entire room being green friendly. So it was like these vents that were made to breathe, because they were shaping these vents like gills of a whale. And if you make something large enough, this is like the Tower of Babel. They're trying to build a ladder to heaven as this Tower of Babel. If you make these like vents big enough, they'll actually double as a gill of like a fish, and you can pick which kind of fish you would most likely match and work off of that. But that's how these like monster movies of like robots crossovers are made, when someone knows how to melt down an entire facility because they work there, like a nuclear power plant. It's a literal representation of like a appendix of a monster at some point in time if they're melting down the factory. I'm not saying do it, I'm saying of course you work there every day, people know how to do this type of thing. And it's literally at that point the entire building acting as like a closed system. It's all it is closed systems, an appendix of a monster. It's a representation quantized of when someone says it's really hot, it's volcano hot. That's a great one. Shout out Ken Domick for thinking of it. And with the other two, notably the Dorothy, the Patchman, Mount Rushmore, in its early stages when it was just getting doodled out, I imagine it would be like a civil doodler. And there's these jobs of civil workers that get paid by the government. If you have civil in front of your name, you get paid more with benefits because it's for the government. So that's what all the high-end engineers, high-end any profession want to be in, is the civil, because you can have like that part-time and then whatever you're doing off hand for your other time. Okay, so I can't think of the other thing